I'd like you to help me make welcome the pastors that we are interviewing today who planted in 2022. Pastor Andrew Kamugasa of Worship Harvest Liantonde and Pastor Juliet Kwikiriza of Worship Harvest Kachiri. Is that how they say it? Kachiri, Kakiri, Kachiri. Hey, is that how you clap for church planters? What a shock. What a shock. Welcome, pastors.
Thank you.
So these two, did you enjoy yesterday's testimonies? Yeah, and today you're going to enjoy some more. I think we will start with ladies. Pastor Juliet, welcome.
Thank you, Pastor B3.
Why are you looking shy?
No, I'm not shy. I'm just happy.
Okay.
Yeah, to be seated here with you.
Okay, even me, I'm happy to be seated here with you.
Thank you, Pastor B3.
So why don't you first tell us what you do outside of just of the church planting work? What else do you do?
I am a film writer and director.
Shegedes. Makata.
Stage plays, skits, YouTube content, I write and direct.
Wow, you write and direct films and
Yes.
plays.
Yes.
Mercy. Yeah, don't play, don't play. Okay, so you know what, Juliet, I want us to dive straight into your church planting story from the beginning, from before. Yeah, don't think I'm saying from that I planted on this day. No, before you became a church planter, what was happening in your good life?
Okay, the story began with joining Worship Harvest. Before joining, I was tired of church, really, really tired of church because I had given my life to Christ at the age of 13, and I served everywhere.
Hey, everywhere.
I promised myself to do that thing. So
You've done it.
yeah.
Did you see Cheryl did everywhere? She's a real film director.
I mopped the church, I arranged chairs, everything, just not everything. But at 18, I got bored.
At 18?
Yes, I got bored. Everything was the same. So I only attended church just because my extended family had always said, like those girls will come back to being Catholics. And I only went to church because I was proving to them that I will not go back. So I used to go towards the sermon every Sunday. So when I shifted to, and things worsened when I failed to join university. I failed to get money. So I was like, this God whom you serve every day.
He doesn't give you school fees.
Yes, who doesn't give you school fees? Which kind of God is that? So it worsened. I just said I will go to church just to prove, and then I'll find my life elsewhere. So when we shifted to Gayaza, I went to live with my aunt in Gayaza. I had failed to get money for rent. So someone adopted me at my
school fees, rent.
Yeah, a friend of mine adopted me when I was old. So I went to live with them in Gayaza, and I failed to get a church, and I said, this is a sign for me to stop going to church. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So one day I go back to my church in Mengo, Streams of Life Church, and Pastor Gerard sees me and calls me and asks me why I no longer go to church. I told him, I don't have a church, I stay in Gayaza. So he told me, you're going to go to Worship Harvest Gayaza and find Pastor Chris and tell him I sent greetings. That's when I will know that you went to church.
What a good shepherd.
So I went and looked for the church and didn't see the church. I used to bypass the church at Afro Club until I asked people, and they told me, that's the church. And I was like, I'm not going to Afro Club. But because I was told by Pastor Gerard, I went. And I met Pastor Chris, Pastor Lynette was preaching, and I loved her. Yes. I loved her, and I went back because of her. Exactly, at 11, that's when the services the sermon would start. So I used to go at 11 to listen to sermons. No praise and worship.
Yeah, watch out when you don't like praise and worship. It's not a good sign.
Just for the sermons. So I was introduced to the Grace Gospel in 2017. We used to watch Andrew Mark videos. I was introduced to Great Gospel, and I felt alive again. I felt good. I was on fire. For God. I told my sister, you need to come and see this church. They have their Grace Gospel. They are cool. They are giving. 5 million seats I have never seen. They give soda. They, you can, yeah, they give soda. You can give your highlights at the end of sermon. You should come to this church. Yes. So after the Grace Gospel and 2017, I was on fire. They told me about gang. What is gang? I joined. After gang, they told me about School of Leadership. I joined. I was on fire. After School of Leadership, there was nothing more. So I went to Charis. I wanted anything to do with growth, spiritually. I went to Charis, but after COVID, I stopped. Yeah. Because I stopped, because I couldn't pay for tuition. I was not working anymore, so I couldn't pay for tuition, and they cut me off. Yeah. But in 2021, Pastor Chris told me about School of Ministry. I joined. Because I was on fire for Jesus and his love. But I didn't want to be a pastor. Yes.
Just fire for God.
Yeah, just fire for God. Grow,
but never plant.
Yes, but don't
Understood.
be a what? Yes. But my Pastor Chris and Annette were the bulbs. They kept on switching on my bulb, and I switched off. They kept on switching on.
Switch on, switch off. Switch on, switch off.
Yes. So after, when we started Church Shift, that's when I understood the Great Commitment. Church Shift, that book. I understood the Great Commitment. I knew that people were there, and that the only begotten Son of God did not come for us to enjoy only cars and good things, but for people to get reconciled to God. Yes, that's when the Great Gospel, the Great Commission sank in me. Wow. Yes.
Then what happened after that? You decided to become a church planter?
No. I said I will start preaching, Kale.
Slowly.
But I didn't even go to preach it because I had never evangelized in my life. So I used to use your videos of the faith boosters. Whenever I wanted to preach, I would give the person that video to listen. And that was my preaching. Yes. Wow. And I was challenged to start an MC which failed. It used to have 2-3 people and a half.
The ones Apostle talks about. Your
and
MC
I hated
had 2.5
people. That's why I didn't want to be a pastor. I hated reports. One day, Pastor Lynette called me at 3 a.m.
But
to
Pastor
give a report. To give a report, and I hated it more.
Yeah, you had to hate it more.
Yes.
Already you have 3.5 people. They are calling you at 3 a.m.
To give a report.
Number 3 is not good.
Today we are 3, tomorrow we are 3 and a child, the other time we are 3 and a pregnant woman. That was the half.
Yeah. Apostle is a true prophet. The 3.5 people are real.
Yes. Yeah, so I hated reports. Yeah,
reports.
That's why I hated being a worship harvest pastor. Another thing what I hated about that, you people were so cool. Yes. The dressing, the what, and I had every least expectation of my life. That's why I hated being a pastor of worship. Everyone was driving, and Pastor Chris was like, you have to do this. Even you have to go and learn how to drive. Those things. I eventually had to go and learn how to drive. Yes, because every day Pastor Chris was like, you have to increase your value. But he said he's seeing a greatness in me which I was not seeing. And every day I would ask, which greatness is he seeing in me? You understand? I hadn't completed university. Those things, That's why I hated being a pastor for Worship Harvest. You were super cool that I was intimidated.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. But we will keep doing it.
Yeah, I was intimidated. Seriously.
Sorry.
Yeah. So after in June, Pastor Chris sends me to Wakiso. You people. My MC was not going good.
It really wasn't.
My zone was not going.
You had a zone?
Yes. I had an MC. Before it did good, Pastor Chris told me, now you're going to lead a zone. I told him, no, I am not leading a zone. He told me, I am not taking a no for an answer. I'm giving you 24 hours to think about it. I told him my MC is failing. He told me you're going to lead a zone. So I led Gayaza's zone, and he started picking up. So when he sent me to Wakiso, I went and asked Peace Kabugo, my friend. I tell you what, I think Pastor Chris asked everyone in Worship Harvest, and they refused. So he came to me. He came to me to go to Wakiso. So Pastor Peace told me, Peace Kabugo, no, they did not refuse.
Didn't ask me. They didn't ask
that is, he's asked you. He didn't ask anyone. You go to Wakiso. But my job, we used to work weekends, theaters, backstage, and film crew. It was always weekends. So Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Saturday. So I had to quit it because you can't stay long at the theater and then the next day, you understand? Even Sunday, sometimes it called for theater plays. So I had to quit to go to Wakiso. So I quit 2021 September. I sent, I said goodbye to my boss. She said it's okay. Then I went to Wakiso, and the Wakiso jammed.
It jammed.
It jammed. It failed.
What a shock.
It failed.
Wakiso did what?
It failed. When it failed, I felt so bad. I felt frustrated. I used to cry every day like for a month. Every day. Cry every day. So I called Pastor Chris. He came to Wakiso.
Even came?
Yes. He came and visited me. He prayed with me. I cried.
Of course.
He declared many things, but at that time I was telling God, if I'm slowing down your work, you bring someone else. But I wanted to plant.
Okay, now
but
you
things
wanted.
were not going well. Yeah, so I was heartbroken. Yes. I had quit my job and things had jammed, so I was heartbroken. Yes. And then Pastor Chris brought a leader, Pastor Andrew Mokove.
And Wakiso worked.
Yes, and Wakiso just picked up. I said, maybe I'm not a church planter. September, October, nothing. When he came, he did like this, and we launched. And I took a deep breath. I said, I'm going to serve in Wakiso. Yes.
No sooner had you taken a deep breath.
What Papa Blesso knocked on my WhatsApp. And he told me, I saw you putting somewhere in those departure things. They were excited. We put places. He was saying, yes, I saw you putting somewhere in Kachiri. You go and look for a hosting center. I told him, no, not now, please. Wakiso has not even crowed. We've just given birth. The baby is No, I'm not going. He said, told me, I want a hosting center. I want a place. I'm coming to see the place. I went to Kachili, looked for a place for a full month, January. I failed. And in my mind, I was saying, everything that happens is showing that I'm not a church planter. So to Kachili, I went with a mentality of, I am not a church planter. Yes, I am not a church planter, and I want these people will know that I am not a church planter. Yes.
This is so bad.
The venue refused. But when Papa Blesso told me, I am coming today, I want to find you with a venue. So I told God, if Papa Blesso finds me with a venue, then I will know that I am a church planter. That day, Papa Blesso came, we looked for the venue, and we got it. And he negotiated the money. I'm a church planter. I started speaking again, I think I'm a church planter.
Maybe.
But after the hosting centers showing 2.5, 3, I went, I'm not a church planter. But along the way, it started stabilizing. Papa Blesso played with me almost every day. He used to call me here, Nalia, pray for me and give me transport. Go back. Yes.
Papa Blesso!
But the thing that after that time, whenever I got something that discouraged me, I used to tell him I'm closing. Every time I'm closing. So the last time I told him I'm closing, he told me, okay, I'm going to launch you.
Then you
so
close.
That, you cannot close a church. Because whenever you get a problem, you say you're going to close the hosting center. So I'm going to close you and we'll see how you will close the church. I'm going to launch you and you will see how you will close the church. So he gave me 2 weeks. I had gone to tell him to close because my leaders had gone.
Oh, you had gone to tell him that you're closing?
Yeah, because my leaders had gotten a problem with everything to do with Worship Harvest, and they went. I remained one person.
You are not 3 now?
Yeah. But he told me whether you're 2 or 3, I'm going to launch, and we'll see whether we'll close again. And he launched me on 14th of August, 2022.
Wow. What's happening in Kachiri now?
Kachiri, we are working towards the financial freedom. My congregation, no one had, I think one person had an account, a bank account, and we are working towards that. I told them to look for money. I take them myself to the bank. Whenever you get the 30, 20 is for opening and 10K is for transport. I take you myself to the bank and open that account. Yes.
How many people are in Worship Harvest Kachiri?
75 people.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What a story. I feel like if I try to bring Pastor Andrew to tell his story now, we'll do him a disservice because we'll give him little time and we will rush him. So I'm going to come back with Pastor Andrew in the next interview because I think that we needed to hear this story in its detail with all the near misses, the near fails, the near giving ups, the craziness. And now there are 3.5 people in the MC, 3.5 in the zone, 2.5, 1 in the church plant, and now 75 people whose lives are changing in Kachiri because this woman of God kept going, kept growing, kept obeying, kept saying yes. Ladies and gentlemen, help me once again celebrate Pastor Juliet of Worship Harvest Kachiri for saying yes to the call of God and changing lives. And of course for Papa Blesso, Pastor Chris and Lynette Upmore, who have continued to encourage and send out church planters. You too, I'm talking to you, who has 1.5 people, which is you and someone you're believing for next week to come to your MC. You can start a church, you can change lives. All God needs is your yes and to be submitted to a leader. We'll come back again with Pastor Andrew Kamugasa and another church planter in the next segment. But for now, give it up for Pastor Juliet of Worship Harvest Kachiri. Wow.